Joining me now is Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut, a big supporter of further restrictions on gun ownership. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. I'm wondering, can you point to a law or a proposed law that might have prevented the massacre in Roseburg, Oregon?
There may be no specific law that would have prevented that killing, but we're still awaiting facts about how the gun was obtained and what the signs of danger were in this individual. But the common ground here is to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. For example, in Charleston, South Carolina, the shooter there was able to obtain a weapon because he made use of a gap in the law, a loophole, that permits gun dealers to sell weapons after 72 hours, even if a background check is not complete. Closing that loophole would seem to be common ground. No background check, no gun if it's a federally licensed dealer. And of course, more universal background checks for gun show sales or internet sales would seem to be common ground. Bringing together red and blue states or localities and east and west, all parts of the country, because I think the vast majority of Americans want to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. And our effort now is to ignite and activate that vast majority so that they can be heard and heeded in Washington, D.C.
For the closing of the loophole that you proposed, and I know you're introducing legislation about keeping the gun from being sold, even if the background check hasn't happened yet. What do you say to gun rights advocates who say that person, anybody who intends to commit a crime with a gun or commit a horrific act of violence, as happened in Charleston, that they're going to find a gun anyway, that what you're proposing would just keep guns out of the hands of people who are law-abiding? What would your response be?
I know from my own experience as a prosecutor, I was United States Attorney in Connecticut, the federal prosecutor for 4.5 years, and then Attorney General for 20 years. No law is perfect. It depends on vigorous, strong enforcement. And no law is perfect. No law is a panacea or a single solution. But we know from experience in states that have laws that enforce background checks and countries that have laws that keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people, that the crime rates are lower that result in homicides. We know that the presence of a gun in a home where there's domestic violence makes it 5 times more likely that a woman will be killed, that suicides are more common when guns are involved, and that the confrontation in Arizona, just to take today's news, was made more deadly by the presence of a gun. So what I would say is that no single law is a panacea, but those laws to enable law-abiding gun owners, they have a right to those guns, to continue to have them, can also help keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people.
Given that we are in the world that we're in, and given that passing any further gun restrictions, even closing loopholes, is so difficult, wouldn't it make sense for there to be armed guards on campuses these days?
There are armed guards on a lot of campuses, and in fact, in a lot of high schools. In Connecticut and elsewhere, there are security forces. Again, no single solution is a panacea. We need to regard this problem as we would any epidemic or contagious disease, the flu, tuberculosis, Ebola, and ignite and activate alarm among average Americans who know that something has to be done. So better security at schools was part of the package that we offered back in 2013. It got 55 votes, not the 60 that was necessary, along with other common sense, sensible measures, a ban on illegal trafficking and straw purchases, and of course, background checks.
All right, Senator Blumenthal, Connecticut, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.